glasses you hold by the stem, and there is a good reason, because the glasses have a ring which is amazing.
Wow. That's something.
So,
Wow.
the ring of the glasses is amazing. So when you clink, and I invite you to clink, hold the glass as low as possible and go this way as you would kiss each other and clink the glass. Yeah, just hit it. Hit it. In case you break the glass, you get another one. So don't be intimidated. Feel the vibration in your hand, how this glass rings. So it even gives a beautiful ring. Same wine, same temperature, different shape. You get very different noses, very different qualities of aromas. So, first introduction is that yes, depending on the shape, the size, and the rim diameter, the wine smells different. What it is that you always smell the headspace and the aromas float in the glasses, and therefore you're not able to really smell through and truly smell the wine, but you're going to smell the upper part, which is based on how the wine evaporates from the glass. The next is what is wine? Wine is technically seen 85% water, 14% alcohol, and 1% flavor. And now think where the flavor comes from. There is a source, and this is the interesting part. And based on this source, we are determining the size of our glasses. And we believe that there are wines which carry 2 flavor components, 3, and 4 flavor components, or contributors I should say, not components, contributors, flavor contributors. Think about the 2 primary flavor contributors in wine are yeast and the fermented juice. The fermented juice makes sense. Everybody would guess this, but yeast, wow, this is new. Why yeast? Why does Georg Riedel say yeast first? Because yeast triggers the fermentation. Without yeast, no fermentation. Without yeast, no wine. And yeast has a very interesting flavor contributor. It's a very interesting flavor contributor, and if winemakers would be here in the room, they would agree with me that by changing the yeast, you change the flavor profile of your wine significantly. And there are different yeasts which they're using. They're using natural yeast, which are in the vineyards, which are in the winery, or they inoculate yeast and start the yeast. Modern winemaking, how wine became modern, is that they didn't like their own natural yeast, so they inoculate yeast in order to work on the flavor profile which the winemaker believes his customer will enjoy. Who of the wines have 2 flavor contributors? Obviously, those which are unoaked, because oak is the 3rd flavor contributor next to yeast and to the fermented juice. What does the oak? The oak, first of all, gently oxidizes the wine. Keeping the wine in a barrel means that I give access to the wine to breathe. In a stainless steel vat, there is no exchange of air. So it's in very great reduction. But the barrel breathes first. Second, the barrel has an inside which is coated, which is flamed. And the reason for this is that you need to bend the barrel. And with this heat, you bend the barrel, and this kind of inside gives it toasting. And you can choose the toasting from light, medium, and heavy toast. I think that Emilia is using a light toast because she does not like to have this kind of oaky wines. And in the barrel, A third element is that you almost cannot avoid, if you do not avoid it on purpose, that the wine makes malolactic fermentation. So the oak has this kind of additional add-on when it comes to the wine making, and it gives oxidation, it gives flavor, and it triggers the malolactic fermentation, because this is where the second fermentation takes place. What is malolactic fermentation? Is triggered by a bacteria, and it changes the aggressive, crisp apple acidity into more soft lactic acidity. This is what malolactic fermentation means. Have another sip. Have another sip and enjoy the wine on your palate. Feel the creamy texture and notice that the wine from this glass shows every nuance. And let me explain what wine is. First of all, you notice that the wine is palatable in this glass. And you will discover that the weight of the wine is in the center of your palate, and which gives you a sandy, minerally finish on the top of your palate. Check the side of your palate, and you notice that here you concentrate the acidity. Feel the front part of your palate, and notice that the front part gives you the most sweetest connotation of the wine, and on the back is bitter components. Which means that the only thing which our glasses do is we guide the wine on different parts of our palate, which then triggers a different perception. This will be quite interesting. I'm going to ask you now to sip from glass B. Please pick up glass B. And what does glass B? It has a very narrow opening. In order to make the wine flow, which flows on gravity, you have to move your head very, very far back, which pushes the wine more to the center and back palate. Let's see what happens when you taste the wine from this glass. You notice that in this glass the wine loses fruit, and the bitter components are very, very prominent. The wine seems to have a high bitter content. The reason for this is that you pour from the small glass the wine very far back, and which reflects the bitter components. And now we're going to pick up your glass B and glass 2 and pour it into glass number 2. And you will be surprised how the sense of touch, ladies and gentlemen, is the most different of all when it comes to judging the wine. Take a sip. Take a sip and feel how slow the wine in slow motion hits the front part of your palate, and how the wine gets creamy texture, and how fruit, minerality, acidity and bitter components are perfectly in balance. Which means that if you don't use the right vessel, the wine hides its quality. Imagine you have investment in wine, you pay a lot of money, and you're hiding it if you're not using the right tool. Let me to mention was October 17th, 1989. And if I remember correct, this was the date where the earth shook in San Francisco. I met Mr. Mondavi, Robert Mondavi, in London at Harrods. And we did a combined tasting as we do it today. He was performing his wines, I performed my glasses. We met in the UK. And when I met Mr. Mondavi for the first time in the morning, he was slightly jet-lagged. And I was explaining to him what my glasses can do. He said, he got very angry, very upset. And he said, in 50 years of winemaking, I've never heard such nonsense. This was how I was introduced to Mr. Mondavi. about 8 hours later, he was on the phone talking to his sons, saying he has gone through the greatest wine experience ever. And it was a very expensive meeting for Mr. Mondavi because he changed in all his wine.